Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Ellechat on how to create hype around a new launch. That could be the launch of a product, of a service, of a client project, maybe even your business that you're planning on starting. So welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. I just want to make sure that before I start diving into all of this content, that you can see me and hear me okay. I might sound a little bit different. I'm still struggling through a cold, so thank you in advance for bearing with me. I'm so glad that you're here. We have a lot of people tuning in today, which is really exciting. Even more exciting that you all have been telling me where you're tuning in from, and it is all over the world. We have people from England, from Malaysia. Awesome. Jamie says you can see and hear me. That's great. Thank you for letting me know. So we have England, Malaysia, all over the place. So glad that you all are here and that you're able to tune in. And for those of you who are watching this replay later, I'm glad that you're able to catch this too. Before we get started, just for those of you who are brand new to Ellechat, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. And for those of you who might be tuning in live for the first time, I saw that several of you are in the comment section before I jumped on here. There's a couple of cool features of Crowdcast and within the webinar. What makes it different from just a regular recording is the engagement. So I really love seeing comments from you. Feel free to say hello in the comments, introduce yourself, let me know where you're tuning in from today. And then underneath, there's a poll section and a question section. Looks like a lot of you have found the question section already. Feel free to ask me questions throughout this webinar, and I will leave about 15 minutes at the end to answer as many of them as I can. You can vote questions up. So if you see questions that you like and really want me to answer, go ahead and vote it up, and I'll try to answer in order of the number of votes. And I asked you two questions to get started. So if you haven't answered these, just click a button and weigh in with your answer. The first is, what are you getting ready to launch? Physical product, a digital product, service, business, or other? Looks like a lot of you are getting ready to launch a service and digital product. So that's really exciting. And then the second question is the thought of launching a product or service completely overwhelming to you? It looks like the vast majority, all of you so far, have said yes. Hopefully by the end of this webinar today, you will be feeling a little less intimidated by it. I hope so, at least. Awesome. I see more and more of you weighing in. Thanks for voting on your answers. Maybe a lot of you are waiting to answer that second question based on today's webinar. Hopefully I'll make it a lot less overwhelming for you. Awesome. Well, with that said, I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in. I want you to get as much out of these webinars as possible, so I try to make them as content rich as possible and as helpful as possible. So I have launched, and this is today's webinar is all about creating hype around a launch. And this could be a launch of, like I said, your business, a product, a service. I even try to create hype around new client projects that I launch. I think it's a really exciting time to showcase all the work that we've done and celebrate all the work that we've done and call attention to not only my design work, but also to the businesses of my clients. So really, this can take so many shapes and forms. What I'm not going to go over today, and hope to maybe go over one day in the future, is a launch sequence. So from start to finish, what you should be doing and posting. I think that can get really overwhelming, and it kind of just depends on each individual business. I know a lot of people are coming out with launch sequences, and they can be really helpful. Instead, today, I'm going to share 11 tips with you for creating hype and generating hype around a launch. You might choose to use all 11, or you might choose to use a couple, and that's great. You can pick and choose depending on what you're offering and who your audience is, but a lot of them are applicable to any kind of launch. The first launch that I ever did was a little over a year and a half ago, and it was when I launched my Adobe Illustrator course for the first time. Since then, I've launched it. I'm coming up on the 5th time in a year and a half, and about that time, it was in February, I guess, of 2015. It didn't seem like many people were talking about launch sequences, or maybe I just wasn't aware of it. Probably, maybe even a little bit of both. I don't know. I really didn't have that big of a list. I don't even think I had 1,000 people on my list. And I didn't have that many followers on social media. I was growing. I was trying to grow my blog audience. And so I wasn't even planning on launching the Adobe Illustrator course to begin with. I just saw a need among my audience and thought this could be really helpful for them, developed a course, and I knew that I wanted to create a lot of hype around that course. I knew that if I wanted to launch it again and again, that I needed to launch it the first time with a bang. And I know that a lot of you probably feel the same way, and that's why you're tuning in today. I launched with these 11 tips that I'm going to share with you today. They were just really simple, very doable, not gimmicky, not salesy. I really hold to the fact, or to the motto, that a successful business can be launched in a non-gimmicky way, that you can simply focus on helping other people and still have a successful business. You don't have to sacrifice being smart to run a successful business. You can still implement methods and tips and strategies like I'm about to share with you today, but I think that you can go about it in a way that doesn't feel salesy or gimmicky to your audience. So with that being said, I'm just going to walk through each of these 11 steps. And the first two, I think, are really key. And it's my answer. I was going through some of the questions earlier today, and it might answer a lot of these questions up front. So the first thing that you should do when you're trying to create hype around your launch, and this is actually way ahead of maybe even creating your product or service, is to build first. So let me tell you kind of the common approach, which isn't necessarily wrong, it just might be a little bit harder. The common approach is to create a product or service first, and then try to find an audience that would be interested in buying that product or service. That isn't necessarily wrong, but it makes it really hard to figure out who would want to purchase. So for me, I created a planner when I first got started, and I had no audience. And then I was trying to find people to buy my planner, and it was a lot harder. If you can help it, focus on building your audience first. And I did this through content marketing and blogging, and focusing on driving site traffic, and trying to just build an audience that trusted me and would start following along with me. So if you can help it, build your audience first. And this is going to create hype around your launch because you're actually going to have an audience that's already excited to follow along with you, who would be excited about new products or services. And yeah, it's much easier to create hype around a launch when you already have people that love following along with you. However, it is not impossible to launch a product or service without an audience. And I'll cover some of those ways in just a little while, but consider that. Consider building your audience first. And then number two is to listen to your audience. So as you are building your audience and trying to come up with products and services and different offerings, listen to your audience through comments, through asking them questions at the end of blog posts, through surveys, ask them to respond to your newsletter. So, and yes, I'm following along with the comments too. I should probably hide those at the moment. But Angela, to answer your question, I didn't do any, I mentioned things on Facebook, but I didn't do hardly any Facebook marketing for my first launch. The way that I did it was through listening to my audience and making sure first that before I ever came up with a product idea, that I was listening to my audience. I had several people asking me how I created graphics, and how I created all these different things, and I kept coming back to Adobe Illustrator, and I saw how helpful it would be. So listen to your audience, and if you say your audience doesn't talk to you, start asking them questions, start asking them for feedback. I think a lot of times too, it's easy to get discouraged when you're starting to build your audience because you might be at it for a couple months now and you don't see much engagement or interaction. Keep at it. It took a good 5-6 months for me at the least to gain traction. And that's not to discourage you, that's more to encourage you just to keep on going and keep putting yourself out there, ask questions. People don't leave as many comments anymore, but they do on social media. So you might not see it on your blog, but ask questions on social media. Try to create that engagement. And if you say they never answer, you might even want to do incentives for answering. I don't know what that could be like, but I think making it just very personable, not very salesy all the time. Just ask them, get to know them. I think another thing that's really helpful is actually reach out to them. So if you have, and this is what I've been working on right now with a launch, I'm getting ready to launch a new course for freelancers, teaching them the business side of things. And so I did a validation process, and I actually took a portion of my list and emailed them and said, I'm about to launch this new course, and I would love your feedback on it. Are you interested? And if they said yes, I sent them a Google Doc with information about the course, had a little survey asking them questions about what they thought of different parts of the course, and got a lot of great feedback. So you might ask questions at the end of blog posts, ask questions in social media, or you might actually reach out to them and ask for feedback that way too. But I think before you ever start launching a product, those are just two key things that I've found time and time again. Build your audience first. It'll save you a lot of trouble and headache in the long run. And number two, listen to your audience. But here are some more practical ways once you already have your product and service thought of and you're getting ready to launch. Start a countdown. It acts as not only a reminder for your audience about when your new product or service is going to be launched, but it also builds anticipation. You can do this through a countdown on your site. You can do this in your blog sidebar, at the end of blog posts, on your homepage, a banner across the top of your site with a countdown. Social media, you can create social media images that say 4 more days, 3 more days, and start a countdown. You might do it at 2 weeks out from the course. You might just do it 1 week. But start that countdown just to build anticipation and remind people. I think it's really easy to, and I'm speaking from personal experience, maybe some of you aren't like this, but you get so wrapped up in your own business and you're very aware of all that's going on, and so you expect other people are seeing every blog post and every social media post. They're not as attuned to what you're doing. You have to keep reminding them. You have to get in front of them and create that excitement and that hype. So you can do that by having that countdown. Just remind people, build that excitement. I know several people I've followed along with who have just a simple countdown, and I know because of that countdown the exact day and time. If it's the launch of a website or a new brand, then I'm on it. I've remembered, and I try to see it as soon as I can because the anticipation kills me. So yes, so start a countdown. Really, really simple. Doesn't have to be, you don't have to put a ton of time into that one, but a countdown can be really helpful. All right, number 4, put up a cover page on your website or a landing page on your website for the launch. So maybe you don't share all the details about the launch right away. Maybe you're coming out with your website or coming out with your brand or your business. Put a cover page up, maybe even put an opt-in on there. So if it's like a course or something like that, say, do you want to be on the waiting list? And put an opt-in so you can start capturing people's email addresses. Just like we talked about that countdown a moment ago, put that countdown on the cover page. It also allows you to make some final adjustments to the actual page on your website or your website as a whole if you're launching your website. But it's a place to send people to, so that when you're talking about this launch, you kind of have a call to action. So within your countdown on social media, if you say 4 days left, be sure to visit this page at this time. You already have something there for them to go to. So a cover page is really helpful. I know too, if there's a countdown on the cover page and I have the link, I'm so much more likely at that day and time to go to that site. Again, something really simple. Number 5, and this is what I sent out in this week's newsletter to those of you who follow along with the Ellen Company action steps, are to share sneak peeks and teasers. Again, I told you earlier, all of these ways don't have to be super complicated. as you're working on developing your course or your product or your service, let people in on a behind the scenes. Tell them what you are working on, or drop hints. Just start putting the bug in people's ear. Start building that anticipation. Start creating that hype. I know for my client work, I like to build hype around their launch by just showing sneak peeks. Last week I shared 3 logo concepts and didn't share the one that my client went with, but it was on there. And then when you do share sneak peeks, ask questions. That's another way that you can build engagement, like I was talking about a second ago. Ask questions. Say, what do you think I'm working on? What do you hope I'm working on? Are you excited about this? Would you purchase something like this? Just start asking questions and get them to engage with you, but share sneak peeks. You could even, depending on what you're working on, for those of you who are designers, you could even record your screen. I know Jamie from Spruce Red, who's tuning in today, I love when she takes little screenshots of, and they're actually videos of what she's creating. It's really fun to see, and it always makes me think, I want to see the final result. So consider doing that, and that will build anticipation in a really simple way. You're not really doing anything extra. You're just showing a behind the scenes of what you're working on. Maybe you show an up-close view as kind of a teaser. Whatever it is, pique their interest. I think we all have like a nosy side of us, or again, I'm speaking for myself. I want to know what's going on. I want the inside scoop, so I like having those little teasers and sneak peeks. All right, what number are we on now? I think 6. It's 6. So just to review really quickly. 1 was build your audience first. 2 is listen to your audience. 3 is to start a countdown. 4, put up a cover page. 5, share sneak peeks and teasers. And 6, and this is really important, especially for those of you who are trying to launch with a very small audience, which is totally possible, is to encourage others in your industry to share about your launch. So when I was first launching that Illustrator course, like I keep going back to, I reached out to, I think it was over 5 people in the industry who had a similar audience that I was looking for the course. And I told them that they could have full access to the course, free access to the course, if they would just share about it on social media. And I even mentioned like a specific outlet. So if you'll just share about it on Instagram at least once, or if you'll share about it in your newsletter. And I also provided, I came up with a few images, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. Came up with a few images that were all branded for the course and said, you can share whatever image you want, but here's a few images just to make it easier once they agreed to share about the launch. That opened me up to a wider audience. It gave me more credibility depending on who I asked, but it was really simple to do. And for me with my e-course, I wasn't losing any money. It wasn't like it was requiring more time. I just gave them the login and they were able to access it. So super easy to do. And in terms of who to reach out to, make sure you've already even built a connection with them before. Share their posts. Talk about them on social media. Start building connections so it isn't quite so awkward when you just reach out to them and say, hey, will you share about my course? You don't know who I am. And it doesn't have to be people with a huge audience either. It could be people who are right at your level. They might be even more willing to share. But yes, just get it. Try to get your stuff in front of as many people as possible. If you're just starting your business, ask friends and family to share. That's a starting point. But give incentives to share. You might even, before the launch, and I don't always recommend doing a giveaway right at the same time as your launch, or even including a big discount. Usually bonuses are great. But if you want to do a giveaway before your launch to start growing your audience, and you partner with other people, or you, I don't know, you partner with people in other ways to grow your audience before you launch, could be really helpful too. But if you do partner with other people, like I said, make it really easy on them. You might even go ahead and write up some copy of what they could say about the course. offer it to them for free. And again, I'm talking about courses, but this could really be anything, any type of product or service. But yes, so again, network with other people, benefit from their audience, and make sure that it's a win-win for both of you. You can even, if you're launching for the second or third time, reach out to other people who've taken your course before or bought your products before, and ask them to share about it too. Another thing that you can do, and this was huge for me, and I think really helped me sell out of those 40 seats in less than 15 minutes, was blogging about it. At that time, I had really focused on growing my blog audience, and so I tried to be strategic about the types of posts that I was blogging on a consistent basis, not only even before I announced the launch, to try to put a bug in people's ear about Adobe Illustrator. And then the week of the launch, the week before the launch, I shared a post on 40 ways that you can use Adobe Illustrator to improve your blog and business. I could have also shared Illustrator tutorials, but the goal isn't just to mention it in your blog post, but to actually gear your content around whatever it is you're selling or offering or launching. So blogging really gives you the opportunity to share your expertise. It gives you credibility, and it also, if you do it the right way, shows your audience their need for whatever it is you're offering. If you go about it and you show them the value of it and the benefit of it and how it's meeting a need of theirs, how they might be lacking in one area and this product or service is going to meet that need. You don't just want to do a blog post of, hey, I'm launching this and here are a few details and hope you buy it. You want to be strategic. You want to have a post that says, here are, if you're trying to sell a course on growing your mailing list, you might do a blog post on why mailing lists are so important in the first place. Maybe it's a list of benefits of how you can use your mailing list. Maybe you share content ideas for your mailing list. Maybe like today, I posted a new post on 30 content upgrade ideas. Maybe you do that. And then at the end of it, pitch your product or put a bug in people's ear about when it's launching. Maybe link to that cover page or that landing page, and have a countdown at the end of it. But just be really strategic about the content that you're posting and really think through your editorial calendar. There can be huge benefits there if you use your blog correctly with your launch. Number 8, launch midweek. Now, I say midweek. I found this to work for me because it gives me time to remind my audience earlier in the week, so I can create that hype for a Wednesday or Thursday launch, and then I can keep that excitement going the rest of the work week, maybe even into the weekend and maybe the beginning of the next week, depending on how long the launch is. This might be helpful for you too, but I would highly suggest doing some research on your site and also on your social media. They have analytics on social media now that can tell you when the most popular time of day for people to repin your pins on Pinterest, or most popular time of day that people are interacting with your tweets and retweeting. Go to your website and look in Google Analytics and see what are the most popular times that people are visiting your website and what are the most popular days. And maybe you base your launch off of that data. So don't just pick a haphazard time. Always have a reason behind it. Think through all of these details, even down to the day and time that you launch. And someone asked earlier, I saw in the questions, they asked what the proper launch time is and when you should start. I think it varies and just depends. For me, I'm trying to start a month out and just put a bug in people's ear, and then especially the week before, create that hype. But yeah, so number 8 was to launch midweek. And if you've launched before and you've kind of played around with this, let me know in the comments and let me know what you found, what the best day and time for you was. I'd be really interested to hear that, and I'm sure others would too. So 7, blog about it. 8, launch midweek. 9, this was so helpful for my first launch. I need to do this again for this launch. Create a video. These unexpected types of media can really make your launch appear more professional. It also demonstrates the effort that you put into whatever you're doing. So when you are planning on a launch, consider even, I don't know, exchanging services with a videographer. Maybe you just sit in front of your computer like this and make sure there's some good light coming in and just talk about your launch and share more details. I think it's so much more engaging for people. If you're teaching an e-course, it's really helpful for people to hear your voice and see your teaching style and just become more familiar with you. It's an opportunity for people. I think it's a lot. It seems like a lot less work when someone is watching a video than if they're having to read content. And I know that makes people sound lazy, but I just know personally that I would rather sit here and listen to a video or watch a video and instead of reading a long blog post or something like that. Both have their benefits, but a video can be extremely helpful. You can put it on that cover page. You can share it on social media. It doesn't have to be super complicated, but a video can be extremely helpful. And you can get, especially since the majority of you are creative entrepreneurs in creative fields, you can get really creative with that one. Number 10 is limit your product quantities or limit your number of seats. Put a limit on something. Maybe it's the time frame. It's a simple law of supply and demand. And I think there's a greedy part of us that thinks, oh, I could offer 40 seats, but I might be able to sell 60 seats and bring in more income. But I think when people feel like they're going to be missing out on something, they're much more likely to try to buy a lot quicker. So when I said I only had 40 seats and tickets were going on sale at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time on a Wednesday, I was stunned to see that people were waiting by and trying to get their seats quickly to the course. So especially, and I knew for me, I really needed to sell out of that first course if I wanted to keep launching it again and again. But create that sense of urgency in people. Maybe it's just a time frame. Maybe you only allow a few hours for people to sign up, and once those hours are over, it's over. Or maybe you only sell 100 copies of whatever it is you're working on. You could also do a bonus. So if for the first 10 people to sign up, you get this special bonus or something like that. But create a sense of urgency among your audience, and don't be afraid to put a cap on something. You can always offer it again later, which is really helpful. I'm looking in the comments too. Jackie asks, does the video have to be me in it? It depends on what you're trying to sell, but I've always found that when it comes to social media posts or anything like that, people like seeing you in everything. It seems more personable. It helps build trust. People like seeing the people behind the businesses that they're following along with. So I understand I don't always want to get in front of the camera on a Thursday or share photos of myself on social media, but I think it would be really helpful for you, Jackie. All right, so we are on number 11. So number 10 was to limit your product quantities, and number 11 is to brand your launch. I know, coming from a designer, this, easy for me to say, right? But I think branding the launch, and Jake was even giving me a hard time about putting this in here, but I really think it is important. When you brand a launch of something, when you have consistent colors and fonts for your product, even if you come up with a logo for it, if you make all the images consistent, it just looks so much more professional. It looks like it's well done. I truly believe that first impressions make a huge difference, and you want people to be able to trust you, trust your authority, trust that you're doing things well, especially if they are going to put money towards whatever it is you're offering. They want to make sure that it's high quality. So by having, a video like I talked about earlier, and having consistent images and branding your campaign, it makes you seem so much more professional, so much more legitimate, and it builds trust with your audience. And not only that, but it makes it recognizable so that when people see countdown images and they see a sneak peek of maybe your course workbook or whatever it is, they recognize that it's from the same launch, the same offering, and it just creates that recognizability. It's one key of branding, whether it's for a product or a service, whatever it is, just to create that consistency and that professionalism. So I'm going to run through the list one more time for you guys. One was to build your audience first if you can. And maybe it's not this go round, but maybe it's the next go round with whatever offering. But build your audience first. It's going to make it so much easier for you to launch later. And not only build your audience as in build your list, or even build your social media following, but I would say even more important is to build your site traffic. Point more and more people to your site. That's where they're going to purchase after all. So that's where blogging can come in really handy. 2 is to listen to your audience. Once you're building your audience, try to create engagement through comments and emails. In-person events are really great for that. If you can go to conferences or workshops or meetups in your area. Surveys, like I said, actually reaching out to people and maybe even going through a validation process. If you want to learn more about validation processes, I think they're extremely helpful, especially with a launch. Brian Harris from Video Fruit, I talked about him before. I'm actually working with him. He has a really great podcast on the Smart Passive Income podcast, or episode on that podcast. I don't know what number it is, but it's worth looking up, and he walks you through a validation sequence where you actually reach out to your audience instead of trying to guess at what they want. Really helpful. 3, start a countdown. 4, put up a cover page on your website or create a landing page for that launch. 5, share sneak peeks and teasers. That's probably my favorite one on this list. That's what gets me excited. 6, encourage others in your industry to share about your launch. Start networking with people. Offer your offering for free in return for them spreading the word about your new product or service. Blog about it, and not only just mention it on your blog, but gear your content around it and position yourself as an expert. And tell why your topic is important and why people should care. Why should people care about whatever it is you're launching? Explain it in a blog post, but do it in a thoughtful, intentional way. 8, launch midweek, or at least look into your analytics to see when might be the best day and time to launch. 9, create a video. So much more engaging, allows you to really dive in and tell more about your offering, and just looks a lot more professional. 10, limit your product quantities or your number of seats, whatever that might look like. And 11, brand your launch to make it look very streamlined and to build trust with your audience. So I tried to leave a lot of time at the end to answer questions. I might hop off a little bit early because I do have this cold and I don't want to blow my nose on screen, to be honest. So thank you guys for bearing with me. But let's get started. I know that we have 21 questions in here, so I'm going to try to get through as many of these as possible in the next 10-15 minutes, and then we'll wrap up a little early today. I might even go ahead and send out the list of 11 to you all later, probably tomorrow, for those of you who weren't able to take notes. All right. Kristen asks, how do you promote a launch without an existing audience? So I kind of covered this just a moment ago. If you can help it, it's best to build your audience first and listen to your audience to see if they're actually interested in your launch. Sorry, guys. Very informal. That is my cat. She doesn't bother me at all during the day except for when I do things like this. So if you can help it, build, listen to your audience. But another great option would be to partner with other people. Like I said, give your product away in return for people sharing about your launch. I think that's a great way to do it. And also share it up and down on social media to the audience that you do have. A lot of people say that you don't need a big audience to launch. And I agree with that, but I also, to a certain extent, I agree with that. I think it makes it easier if you have an audience to launch to. And I think a lot of the people who say that you don't need a big audience to launch to have a big audience, so that's easy for them to say. But I do think that if you're being smart about the strategies that you are using, and if you pull from this list of 11, that's definitely easier. But reach out to other people. Ask them to share about your launch. I think that would be probably one of the best ways, Kristen. I hope that's helpful for you. Rachel asks, do you think you need to have a certain amount of email subscribers to have a successful launch? There are definitely launch sequences out there now that people are coming out with specifically for your mailing list. I know I got an email, who was it from yesterday that I was looking at? I don't even remember now, that's terrible. But they had like their 8-day program for the exact type of emails that you need to send and what needs to be in each one. And I think that can be really helpful. They'll try to tell you how many subscribers you need and what a good conversion rate is. I think it just depends. And like I said, I think sometimes site traffic and a loyal blog audience can be just as effective as email subscribers. I'm learning about the benefits of mailing lists more and more, but I don't think that you have to reach a certain amount in order to launch. You might try Brian Harris. Sorry, guys, got to do it. Brian Harris has a program for getting to 1,000 email subscribers, and that might be a good place to start. But sorry, I don't have a more concrete answer for you, Rachel. Kate says, any tips on launching a physical product would be much appreciated. Thank you. Kate, I'd love to hear what your physical product is too. Like I said, any of these would be super helpful, whether it's a digital product or if it's a physical product. I think any of these 11 tips would be extremely helpful. I think really good product photos would also come in handy for you. The thing that's hard when you're buying something, especially online, and it's a physical product, is that you aren't able to see it in person. So if you can give as much visual proof as possible and have really high quality photos and maybe detailed shots of whatever it is and try to give them as much information as possible, I think that that is extremely helpful. I know when I'm purchasing things online, I love seeing when products have a bunch of pictures that I can look through and really great product descriptions and really great landing pages. But again, any of these 11 tips should be really helpful for you too. Great question. Aaliyah, I think is how you say it, asks, I'm launching a physical product soon and I don't have a large audience. Is it worth it to spend money on social media ads? Again, I think some marketers have a lot of great success with social media ads, and I've seen a lot of webinars on this and blog posts on this. And then I've seen the opposite. I've seen where people say they didn't spend a dime on social media ads and they did just fine. We tried social media ads for a course that I launched back in January, and we didn't have overwhelming results with it. I don't think that you have to spend money on social media ads in order to have a successful launch. I think it's actually easier to sell to people who've been following along with you and that you've built trust with for a while instead of selling cold to random strangers. That's been my experience. It's easier to sell to people who've been following along with you and are familiar with you. So I would say, no, you don't have to spend money on social media ads. You might try it out once and set, a budget for it and see how it works. And maybe for the next time, you'll have a better gauge. It also depends on who your audience is too. But great question, Aaliyah. You guys have some great questions today. Judy asks, this is a question about copywriting and Squarespace. Send me an email, Judy. I'd be happy to help you with that. And you might look into Ellechat that I did a few months ago, maybe even with Jackie Jade on legally protecting your business. And I talk about copyrights in there. All right. Rachel says, I'm thinking about creating an e-course on Pinterest, but at first I want to create a free one to see how many people would be interested. What do you think is best for the number of subscribers or website visitors to sell to your first e-course? How high is usually a conversion rate if you have like 100 email subscribers and 2,000 page views a month? I would even back up, like I said a moment ago, all the way to building your audience and listening to them to see if they would be interested. I think content upgrades can be a great way to see if people are interested. Like you said, maybe a free mini course, or maybe you grab one of the content upgrades I shared on the blog today and it's geared toward Pinterest. Maybe you have a couple different content upgrades and maybe some that aren't on Pinterest, just to see what people's interest is. I also think a validation process would be extremely helpful for you to reach out to a certain section of your list and see what their interest is and kind of base it on that. If you get people to pre-order from that validation round or a couple of validation rounds, then it might be worth looking into. If not, you might need to spend a little bit more time growing your audience and then figuring out what offering they're interested in. And there are statistics that say you want this % conversion rate and play a numbers game. I think that can be really helpful, but I would focus first on building your audience, listening to your customers, and doing, or listening to your audience and doing some validation rounds to see if they'd be interested before putting all of that time into a course. All right, I'm going to do one more. Let's see. A lot of you are asking about small audiences, and I can totally relate, but I can say it will be well worth your time if you focus on building an audience first. I think content marketing and blogging is a fantastic way to do that. It does require time and effort, but it will highly pay off in the long run. All right, seems like a lot of these are the same. Okay, this is a good one, Allison. How necessary is it to be all over social media? What social media platform do you think brings in the best bang for your time investment? The best social media platforms are those where your audience is hanging out the most. So you have to think about your audience. For me, the biggest ones are Pinterest, Instagram, and Twitter. I actually underestimated Twitter and didn't think that many people in my audience were on Twitter, and I was dead wrong. It's been extremely helpful. Like I said, reach out to a certain part of your audience and ask where they spend their time. I don't think that you have to be on every social media platform and have a presence on every social media platform, because your audience might not be spending time on every social media platform. But don't underestimate where your audience is hanging out either. The best way is to just ask them, where are you spending your time? And if you don't have any audience right now, reach out to people who would be in your ideal audience and ask them where they spend their time, and then market to them there. Great question. All right, guys. Sorry to jump off a little bit early. I don't want to keep wiping my nose on camera, and I really need some water for my scratchy throat. But thank you all so much for tuning in today. I hope that this was helpful for you. I hope these 11 tips were helpful for you. We might share our launch strategy for this course maybe in the next few months in the launch sequence, but I hope that these tips will help you create some hype around your next launch, and let me know how it goes. Feel free to come back here and comment in the comment section, send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. Next week, we're having Sarah Von Bargen on. We haven't put the Crowdcast link up just yet, but stay tuned because it's going to be really good. How she got over close to 500,000 page views on one old blog post just by updating it. So she's going to be sharing with us how you can update your old blog posts and drive traffic back to them and really capitalize on the content you have already written. She has been one of my favorites to follow along with, and I'm really excited to have her on. So be sure to keep an ear out for that. And actually, Crowdcast allows you to follow along with people now. So if you, I think up at the top of the screen, I never know where it is on your side of the screen. I should probably figure it out. But if you see my face, you can click on it and it'll take you to, I guess, my profile page. And you can follow along and be notified every time a new Ellechat gets posted. So you can be on the lookout for that. Thank you guys for tuning in today. I hope it was helpful for you. Best wishes with your lunch, and I hope to see you in another Ellechat very soon. See you later.